I love looking after people and hosting and project managing and just, making sure like things are done in the best possible way. Like I have very high expectations of myself and of, what is delivered. And I think I really just loved doing that.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. In the coming weeks, Australia may find itself in the unique position where the entire country could be completely COVID-free. Given the trajectory of the virus in other countries, it is quite extraordinary. But what will that mean for international travel? Australia's food culture is, after all, a microcosm of the entire planet, created by waves of migration patterns, bringing the flavours and techniques of cuisines from all over the world. For those in the industry, inspiration comes from travel and food experiences. What impact will the lack of international travel have on the hospitality sector? Kylie Ball is a special projects manager of Harvest Restaurant in Newrybar. Kylie, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Anthony. Thanks very much for having me on.
You've had a hell of a tree change. What's it like in Byron at the moment?
Oh, it's lovely. Yes, no, it's very it's busy. I guess we're very fortunate that people are sort of traveling up here. So it's been, sort of good for the restaurants and accommodation and things to sort of get back after, they were sort of very affected by COVID and also after the fires this year. So it's been a pretty tough year for everyone. But yeah, no, definitely enjoying the tree change. There's lots of opportunity and really enjoying working with the Harvest Group, which, it's wonderful.
We're going to have a look at what Harvest are doing a bit later on and also talk about that tree change that you've had. But you spent over a decade with one of Australia's most influential restaurants, Quay, and also a Bennelong, an extraordinary restaurant. And you spent a lot of time travelling as part of that role. How are you feeling at the moment, given what's happened this year with no international travel?
Yeah, I think it's just really sad. Like I think of, the impact of people traveling to our country, had on Quay and Bennelong, like just the Hyatt, like that would be, it's sitting at like 5% capacity at the moment. Like that, would really be impacting, sort of those high-end restaurants, which we really relied on. And also like, tourists, that was probably 70% of Quay's clientele, and certainly Bennelong as well. So yeah, for all of Australia, like I worked on a lot of those big campaigns with Tourism Australia, where it was invite the world to dinner in Australia. We did the launch of Quay, and we did the big dinner down in Tassie to, get people to travel to Australia. And I worked after leaving Quay, worked with Tourism Australia and did the world's 50 best, where we brought all those like the journalists and the chairs to Australia and did an amazing event down in Melbourne to again promote Australia as one of the best dining places in the world. So that's a massive impact on restaurants. So it is now about, traveling within, I guess, now that we can sort of get out of some of us can get out of our states and into others. I think it is really just about supporting, your local restaurants and local producers and suppliers, which is a big, obviously, thing up here. But as you say, we can go into that a bit later. But I think it's definitely. And the thing is, the uncertainty of when it's, if ever, sort of going to change. So
we spoke to Peter Gilmore earlier in the series, and a restaurant like Quay is not only extraordinary in Australia, it's been in the top 100 in the world. It's an amazing restaurant. What did international travel mean for that restaurant for you guys?
I think that was definitely a really big thing for us, and I, like you said, was very, very fortunate to sort of travel the world with Pete and with John, and for us that was our inspiration. Like we would go to Stockholm or to Copenhagen and New York and just have the dine out and, just look at what other people are doing in other cultures and cuisines, and just, that style of service, and, be really inspired. Like, Pete did a trip to Spain, and, the Andalusia almond and citrus was, inspired by a flamenco dress in Spain. And where we're sitting in, a beautiful restaurant in Stockholm, and I think it was Gastrologic, and like the light dimmed at each time you changed course, and we were just really inspired by the way people did things around the world, and also not even so much at that high end level, just getting the best sandwich from in Copenhagen, or the tacos or something. Just yeah, it was really imperative to what we became. And especially for Pete as a chef, and I'm sure most chefs, that inspiration from going to different countries, like, it's just, and the knowledge, the education you get, I think that's sort of one of the really, and I had a good sort of think about this after we sort of had our chat, and it's just like, yeah, that education, like, I remember Pete coming back going, did you know that there was, this is probably wrong answer, but 55 different types of potatoes or something, like, and then yeah, just really just learning, and opportunity, like even like sommeliers and all that, not being able to travel, to be able to be on the, on the ground in, in Germany in the Riesling plot, or like, just thinking about being in, education comes a lot from actually being on the ground and seeing those regions. It's like sort of farming and cooking and stuff. So I think that's going to have a really big impact. Like, education is now just all online, where, I think that is where the passion comes from too. Like, when you come back from a trip and you're like, oh my God, like, I was just in Champagne, like just traveling around sorry, as you say, I did have some, I was very fortunate. So, yeah, but, whether you're in Champagne or you're, anywhere, I think it's more just, those experiences where you would learn, or even like not even being able to go on stage now, or travel for education, or travel for experience, and to bring that back. Like, I was having a good think about, someone like Jason Saxby, who's now head chef at Ray's, and Troy Crisanti, who's head chef at Quay. Like, both of them went and did like a year stint at Ledbury, and they'll both probably tell you it was the hardest time of their life, but they wouldn't be the chefs that they are today without that experience. And you think of all those other chefs in Australia who have gone and staged, and in Copenhagen or New York, and just what they learnt, and then they bring that back, and then it's on the other side of the chefs and front of house staff who would be coming to Australia, and what they bring to our restaurants, where that's not happening anymore either. So yeah, it's really challenging with the no travel.
You've got many friends and so many connections all over the globe in the hospitality sector. What's been some of the impact that you've felt directly with people that you know, and how do you feel about what's going on with restaurants like in the US or the UK or Spain?
Yeah, like in the UK, like when I read that, Brett Graham might not open the Ledbury again, and like, to me, like, it's my favorite restaurant in the world. Like, I've had the pleasure of dining there many times, and he's like family to Key. Him and Pete are good buddies, and I became, really good mates, and we were fortunate to go to Copenhagen together to Mad a couple of years ago. Then, we would always see each other at, the top 50 awards, and then obviously he was out, in Melbourne. And yeah, it's just so sad because he's worked so hard, like so hard. Like, he literally is the first in that kitchen and the last, and he's been like that since, I think he opened it like when he was 25, and I think he's now 40 or something. Like, it's just so sad to have put so much into something, and it to be so successful and so beautiful, and to just think that, well, yeah. And like, I just wonder, like, that impact on, like, him mentally, and all the chefs around, and front of house, and people who've closed businesses, like, that impact on them, mentally as well. It just must be really, really challenging. And then, New York as well, like just, we always had a very, very close relationship with the 11 Madison guys and Dan Barber, at Bluestone Hills, and another one. Like, you just think, oh my gosh, like, just like, will those restaurants ever be like they were before? Yeah, it's just, yeah, really, really, really sad. And it's just sad that we don't know when we'll see them again. Like, we used to see, as I said, you'd see them sort of all the time. And then even after I left Key, I was fortunate to, do work on Gourmet Escape or and other food festivals. So I'd quite often, international chefs had come. So you'd still sort of see those friendships that you created. And um, so yeah, just to not know when you might see them again, and which, yeah, is really, yeah, it's just sad. And you get inspired from each other as well. Like that's what was so, you could sit and, you know, just listen to, Pete and Brett chat all day just about stuff. And, when we were there, like Brett's like, oh, I've gone out, shot a deer and la la la. And, it's just, and just the passion. I think that's what between everyone, in the industry, like just the passion, and to not be able to just, be able to sit across from them in a room, like, is, yeah, it's, yeah, I look forward to hopefully being able to do that sometime soon. And that's been the case with even not just international travel, just even, like I've got a lot of friends in Melbourne, and I used to go down to Melbourne, pretty much once a month, or they'd come up and, where they're all sort of hospo. So, we'd go off to a new restaurant and all support each other, like that community, like to not even have been able to have that. Like they obviously couldn't have it there, but like even from Sydney to there, like, so I'm super keen to get down there and, support them, and just really give them some love.
Restaurants like Blue Hill and the Ledbury and Quay, they do have, award-winning chefs and famous chefs, and rightly so, but they are really the sum of their parts and all of the people involved in those restaurants to make them successful. You played a major role in the Fink group for many years. What, what was your role within that group?
So I was the general manager. So I had actually done 2 stints at Key. So I started in 2000 as their financial accountant, and then moved into functions. And it was a very small restaurant at that time. It was only sort of like three in the office, and that was literally just before Pete as well. So Pete came on board on 2001. And then, yeah, so it was a small team. We sort of did all different roles. And then I actually moved over to London for a couple of years, and then when I came back, the GM was leaving to have a baby. So I literally went into Key for New Year's Eve because I had a friend from America here, and John and Peter, they're like, "Are you back?" And I'm like, "Yes." And they're like, "Oh my God, you have to come back." So literally met with Leon, and yeah, I was very, very fortunate to join the team. So it was just perfect. And so moved into at that ops role, but was sort of the the same as GM boss lady. So yeah, and did that for pretty much, yeah, nearly 10 years. So it was amazing.
What were the challenges of that role?
Um, in terms of it became a beast, but a good beast. Like in terms of, like, when I said it was sort of like a small sort of operation when I first sort of started, and then just with the hype and the success, like I think that second year or the first year I was there, that's when we made the top 50. So then what came with that, then Pete was on MasterChef. So it just became like the busiest restaurant. Like, we used to be a bit quiet for lunch, and then you then came to a restaurant that was at full capacity every service. So and then just then building up the team, and then yeah, and just really, I guess, I don't know if I want to say it was a challenge, like, but just making sure that every day we're doing our best job, and you've got the best team, and we're providing the best guest experience, and just always continuing to make ourselves better, which is what Pete, John, and I worked really, really hard for, and worked with the team to to make sure that that was happening. And then there was always other little challenges, with when the boats started coming into Quay. Like when I first started, there was 40 boats. By the time I left, there's like 293 a year. So that impact on financial revenue was a huge place. So then just looking, what does that then mean for the business? So then just a bit like, I guess, pivoting, like what people have had to do during COVID. Like then we needed to look at different opportunities and designing the restaurant in a different angle, so we could still get people in, and there it wasn't all just about looking at a boat. But fortunately by then too, everyone just really wanted to come for Pete's food and for the experience of Quay, and to be looked after by the entire team and the kitchen and the floor, that we were fortunate that we could still fill the restaurant with the ships.
Why hospitality? How did you get a start in the industry?
Um, I started at McDonald's, probably like a lot of people I know actually, and I think it's back in those days. It's very, very good. It was a very good learning, like, and I just yeah, was just always really passionate just about. I actually started uni as in an accountancy degree because I've always really liked numbers, and then, as you would know, I changed courses and started the hospitality management course with you, out in Richmond. So, which because I just found like accounting just is a little bit on its own. It was a bit boring, and I just really loved people and food. And I hadn't really done much sort of high end dining or anything at that time, but yeah, it just felt like it was the right thing for me.
McDonald's is a world away from somewhere like Key, but a lot of young people find employment in McDonald's when they're young. What is it that you took from the structure of McDonald's as a business?
I think definitely, like just multi how they moved you around in the corporation, which I know that might sound like, oh, you're in front of house one day, then you're on drive through, but I think that's just really interesting to. And I guess now that I look at my skill set, I've really got a huge skill set, which it's probably a little bit different to moving from drive through to being on the front counter, but you know what I mean. You actually, I think it's really interesting that they can teach you different skill sets, and you're still sort of in that employee. And then I was fortunate enough to get promoted to a supervisor, so then I was responsible for people. um, so I think there's just a lot of opportunity to learn and growth and training. They were really big on training. Like I have a lot of friends who are sort of in high positions in restaurants who again all came through McDonald's as well. And I think, as I said, it was back in the day when like it was a really good place to work, and you took pride like in your job and everything like that, and you were really supported and, as I say, trained.
How did the role at Key come about? Because that really catapulted your career from that point.
Yeah, so after my first job in hospitality was at a restaurant called Metzaluna in Potts Point. So, which at that time was two hat restaurant owned by the Plazy family, who, unfortunately Norma and Beppy have passed now, but they were the leaders. Like Beppy's is still going. I think it's 65 years or something. Like it's
Yeah,
so.
extraordinary.
Yeah, so I sort of started as like an admin assistant. And again, it was a tiny restaurant. There was literally like a lady in accounts and then Norma in the office. And so I pretty much did everything, phones, accounts, went down and would do, hosting in the restaurant, would do the till, um, just, stock takes back in those days were all done by, tipping the bottle up to go, yeah, I reckon there's about, 330 mils in that. And, so I was there and then moved up to sort of admin manager, and basically then looked after all the functions and events and did all payroll, all basically all of their financial accounts. And then I actually saw a job advertised at Key, and to be honest, I didn't really know that much about Quay at the time, because it had literally just changed its name from Bilson's, because it was the Olympics. And so, yeah, so then I approached Leon, and I think maybe there was an ops sort of role going. No, I think it was the GM role actually at that time. And obviously I was not qualified, but I was young and it's worth a phone call. I'll just have a chat. And anyway, he said, look, they'd just replaced someone in that, they'd put someone in that role. But they had a financial accountant position going. And so, yeah, so I met with Leon, and yeah, so that was my sort of first step in the door, which, as I said, was really great. And it was a tiny restaurant then. So the GM went away. I'd jump in there. I'd go up and do the desk at lunch. The functions we all answered the phone. We all did pretty much sort of everything. And yeah, so that's where it sort of all started, which, yeah, was pretty amazing. And then we actually, when Pete approached Leon, Charmaine, who was a GM, and I, at that time, we actually went up to Whale Beach and tried his food to see who's this guy who's contacted Leon for a job. So I love that I've known Pete for a very, very long time, like 20 years. But yeah, so we had his pork belly with the jellyfish and the chocolate cake, and just went, and he didn't know we were there. It was a secret, like, because obviously Pete had never met us, so it was like a little secret. Let's go check out, and yeah, and there 20 years later.
Well, John Fink and Peter Gilmore and yourself travelled the world together and ate in many amazing restaurants. Was there a highlight from one of your trips?
Yes, again, we were very, very fortunate to travel and to be able to dine and experience those. And also, it was really just to see our friends, to go to Copenhagen and catch up with Renee and James. And, it was just always so lovely. So that was always a highlight, like walking in there and all, 30 voices going, hello, welcome to Noma, and seeing Renee and the team. I think we did have the experience of going to Faviken, which was pretty epic because we'd been in London for the World's 50 Awards, and then we'd made we actually got plan was we were going to MAD, the symposium, which is another really sad thing about not being able to travel. All these amazing, the MAD, that symposium, the Paraform, probably Parabeer Forum, sorry, like where people get together and learn so much. Like, when is that ever going to happen again? Or will it happen? Yeah, anyway, so sorry to go off track, but yeah, so we'd been in London. So literally we're up at 5, train to the airport, flight over to Stockholm up to this small little town, got in a car. So it was like, 2 planes and an automobile plus a train to arrive at like Faviken at like 6 o'clock. And we checked in because you stayed on site, and then there was a beautiful little spa, and it was just so gorgeous. And then you walk down, you get changed and just walk downstairs for dinner, and like they only take 12 people, so you're sitting in this beautiful little lounge where you have a cocktail and some little canapes, and then you move upstairs to the dining room. Like, it was just like you were just pinching yourself, and there's Magnus just cooking in front of you, and like literally, like the three of us are like, these smiles, like you just like, it literally was like, this is just like insane. Yeah, so that was very, very amazing. And then the next day to be able to roam around the farm, and you know just Magnus showing us what that they do, and or their sustainability and produce and everything like that. It was yeah, really, really beautiful.
You ended up leaving Quay and taking up some pretty incredible gigs, from working with Tourism Australia to bring journalists out here, as you mentioned earlier, and also events like Gourmet Escape. What was all of those sort of roles like for you?
Yeah, they were great. Like, and it's interesting because whilst I loved, like the finance and the GM side, I also, and that's why I loved working with Pete and John, that just like being creative. Like, it's just so interesting and so fun just to be able to go, wow, we just pulled that off. Like, like when I was at Quay, we pulled off a dinner in a Pasquale jewelry shop, like it's just amazing. Yeah, like just so I think to be able to do, like, obviously the Tourism Australia, like to organize that dinner on the beach with the amazing, like the world's best basically, and just the creativeness of like what does that look like, who are we going to who are we going to approach, like just the theming and just, yeah, I really really love that. And the same with Gourmet Escape as well, just to be able to, like, I love looking after people and hosting and project managing and just making sure like things are done in the best possible way. Like I have very high expectations of myself and of what is delivered, and I think I really just loved doing that and loved working with the team at IMG, and again the opportunity to do a travel, like to go to WA, and I was fortunate to go there with Pete when I was at Quay. So you sort of just form a a relationship with people. So you're always going to see them, and so that was always really really lovely as well.
Well, you've had a pretty big tree change. Did you ever expect to see yourself up in the warmer climates up there like you are at the moment?
No, I would not have seen this coming for a mile.
What's it been like?
Yeah, it was really good. So just I guess to give you a bit of a background. So just prior to COVID, I had started a new role in Sydney, and it was a restaurant in the city and one at Double Bay. And then obviously as soon as COVID hit, the city closed, and I just knew it wasn't going to reopen, and just there wasn't really that position for me there anymore. And Tristan had already sort of been in contact with me. Through Pete actually, because he was sort of looking to build his team up here, and I just sort of said, look, I'd taken on a new role. But once I sort of moved on from that, I just contacted Tristan, and yeah, just came up and met him, and was just really inspired by him and the opportunity and the growth. And so yeah, I came up and did like a month's sort of working here, and in that time, Alex, who used to be at Pillar, was the restaurant manager for 10 years, has come up. Dave Moyle, there was already an amazing, team here of people, Sam the som, Santi the chef, and Kelsey the assistant, and Sam in events, like, so, and we keep getting a lot of people coming up from Sydney and not Melbourne. Hopefully they might now. So yeah, just really building the team up here, and just the change, even what I've seen from when the very first time I came to what seeing now, and obviously we've got Dave overseeing, and he brings so much knowledge and experience, and I'm loving working with him as well. So it's been a really easy adjustment. Like I just couldn't imagine being in Sydney right again.
What's this period of time been like for you? You've built up this career in extraordinary restaurants and travelled the world. How do you feel about the industry, and have you changed this year because of what's happened?
Yes, definitely. Like I think even just the move up here, I think I've just really, and I think I've really reflected on, like, I loved my career at Key, and like, opening Benelong was, an absolute career highlight. And, but I do look at how much time I put into that job, and how much energy, and, I sacrificed a lot of things for myself through doing that. But obviously, that was my own making. But yeah, so I've really just sort of just taken a step back and be like, it's you don't have to have that high profile title or job, as long I think as long as you're happy and like that, and like healthy, like just there'd be days I'd be at like here and it'd be like 6 o'clock. I'm like, have I eaten today? Like, because you're just running around like a mad woman. So yeah, I think that's been good. Just to reflect and to breathe. And I think, I think probably a lot of people are sort of in the same, that was with Alex moving up here with his family as well. Just sort of, just just sort of take a bit of a step back, and you still work really hard, but it's just, yeah, I think you're what's important, I guess, might change. And also that, like, the traveling, like, I'd always go to Bali, and I go down to my beach at Lennox Head every day, and I'm like, who needs to go to Bali ever again?
Well, I know you do like to travel though, and
Yeah.
when the borders do open up again and you get that chance, where do you think you'll go first? And is there a restaurant you have in mind?
Um, oh, I'm just, as I said, just super keen to get down to Melbourne, um, and to to go there. Also, I'd love to get back to London. I've got a lot of great friends who I met when I lived there, and I was fortunate enough to sort of see each year after moving back, because I'd be traveling for work. Um, but in terms of restaurant, I don't know. I think I'm just happy to go to all of them.
Well, now that you've had this chance to breathe and reflect on things, and you're up in a really beautiful part of Australia to do that, do you see yourself moving back to the big cities at all, or do you think that working in a destination like you're in is more part of your future?
Yeah, I think this is part of my future. And I think yeah, just sort of nailed it on the head. It is, I think, about destination dining as well. And I've always been a big lover of that. Like, the Blue Hills experience is like a destination dining, like going out to Tabakan, or, and, like Sat Baines up in, no, Nottingham, I think that's, yeah, like Pete, John and I went up there, got on the train in King's Cross. Like, I think I really love that idea, and I think that's what's really nice about being here at Harvest. Whilst it's only sort of half an hour out of Byron, it is a beautiful experience, because you're in, you've got the gardens and the old bakery, and I think there's just, Tristan's very ambitious, so I think there's lots of opportunity to get involved in, other new ventures up here, and I think people will be continuing to travel up here. So I believe, yeah, there's definitely opportunity for me to stay up here, and yeah, and really, yeah, get into the lifestyle, and into, yeah, bringing and I, like, even since I've been here, just like the lift in, service and knowledge just from the experience sort of coming up, and which that really then really enhances the people who were already here and local. So I think I'm loving that as well, like just making a difference, being here, and with the team.
Well, Kylie, not a lot of people know, but we've known each other for quite a long time. We went to primary school together. We bumped into each other at university. You finished that degree. I ventured off to do a different one. And hats off to you and what you've contributed to the Australian hospitality sector, because it really is extraordinary. We've loved having you on Deep in the Weeds.
Oh, thank you.
And hopefully we can share a drink again soon, and keep in touch.
Yeah, I'd absolutely love that. Thank you so much.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we share the stories of Australia's hospo community, suppliers and producers in search of hope during this pandemic. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.